This right here is the Sony 24-50 f2.8. And in this video, I want to go through my experience working with this lens and also just show you everything about this lens and what makes it good or what makes it something you might want to avoid. So I've now switched over to the 24-50 2.8. I'm shooting at an f2.8 on the 24mm, as wide as I could go. And I'm using a Nisi ND filter so that I could get proper exposure and get that super shallow depth of field using the 2.8. Now, I'm filming on the Sony A9 III, and I'm just using the standard Sony stabilization, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Now, the rest of this video, all the A-roll that you're gonna see, is gonna be filmed using this lens, and a lot of the B-roll you're gonna see as well. I've had this lens for a few weeks now, and I've been using it to shoot basically all of my videos. I've taken it out overlanding, I've taken it out sailing, and I just wanted to try this lens in a variety of settings to really see what is good about this lens and also where its limitations are. So now I've switched over to 35mm on this lens, shooting at an f2.8. Now, for its size and its weight, this lens is very compact. So it's just around 450 grams, and it's only 4 inches long when it's closed down. Now, this lens does extend when you zoom, and it actually is the smallest at the 50 range, and when it's at its longest range, it's at a 24. Now, if you were to compare this lens to the Sony 24-70 f2.8, it is significantly smaller. The 24-70 f2.8 version 2 is 700 grams, and it's about an inch longer. Now, the other lens that I would compare this to is the 20-70 f4, which is around the same size as the 24-50. Now, the 24-50 is a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. However, they are very similar in terms of size and weight. So overall, for me, I really like this size lens, and having a 2.8 in this size is great. The only other lens that is similar, that's in an f2.8 that I've worked with, is the Tamron 20-40. And that lens has a lot of issues. Whereas this 24-50 gives you a ton of range in terms of your focal length and gives you a nice look because check out the blurry background at an f2.8. So you can get super shallow depth of field in a tiny compact camera. I'm just hand holding this camera vlog style, and this lens easily fits in my backpack and just is a super easy option when I'm out filming. This is definitely one of those lenses that could be the only lens that you put on your camera if you're trying to be super lightweight and super run and gun. Now I'm shooting at 50mm f2.8. So this is the longest that you could shoot with this lens optically. Now, if you have a camera like the A9 III or the A7C II and you have the APS-C crop, you actually get a 24-75 out of this lens. If you're using something like the ZVE1, you could use clear image zoom and get the same focal range. Now, one of the big things with this lens is that it's a consistent 2.8 throughout the entire focal range. So you could get a super shallow depth of field, blurry background, and it looks really good. You can see from this shot here how out of focus this background is shooting at a 50mm and what the bokeh looks like. It uses 11 blades within the aperture, and so you get a nice look out of the bokeh in the background. However, on the wide end of this lens, it only opens up to a 24, which could be a problem for those of you who are doing vlog style content. Let me explain. So now I've switched over to 24mm f2.8. You could see what this looks like, but I'm shooting with the standard stabilization in the A9 III. So this is the widest field of view that you're gonna get. This isn't bad. This is definitely usable for vlog style content. It could definitely work with a 24. Oftentimes you see creators using like a 16mm to get that ultra wide look. And mostly when I'm shooting this style content, I'm shooting on a 20mm. So a 24 is a little bit more punched in. But the problem arises if you want to use something other than standard stabilization. So now I've turned on active stabilization, just so I could get a smoother shot filming this way. And it punches in on the footage. So now it's an even closer shot, and you don't really see what's around me as much. It's a lot more focus in on my face. When you're shooting this kind of vlog style content where you're talking to camera, it's often better to have a wider shot so you could see a little bit more than just the creator's face. So if you wanted the smoothest possible, which is the dynamic active stabilization, well, now it's really punched in. And this is not going to be the best shot for vlog style content. So this is one of the limitations of this lens. You couldn't really see what I was doing there because it's so punched in. This entire video has been color graded using my new LUT called Rainier. And you can see I'm shooting an S-Log 3, super flat image, get the most dynamic range out of the A9 III, and I've created this LUT specifically for this style of environment, where it's cloudy, a little bit darker, a little bit more moody, and it's inspired by the cold, wet, rainy days up in Washington, because that's where I grew up. So going back to standard on the 24mm, you could see now just a better shot for this style content. And even with that, I would have really liked to have seen this lens being a 20-50, so you have just a little bit more width at an f2.8, but that probably would have made the lens bigger. There's probably a reason why they didn't do that. Now I've switched back to 35mm f2.8. Now in terms of focus on this lens, it uses an internal focusing mechanism that allows it to be super fast and quiet. You're not going to hear it when you're shooting video content. And in terms of speed, this lens can keep up with shooting at 120 or 240 frames per second and keeping accurate tracking on the subject. Now, if you're shooting on the A9 III, you're going to be able to use the photography at 120 frames per second and be able to have the autofocus lock onto your subject the entire time. So this lens was very much built for the cameras that are coming out now, and the speed is going to be able to keep up with the way that you want to film. Let me jump out. Boom, background. Back on me. Background. Back on me. Background. Oh, now we're getting close. Background. This brings up the next point, which is the minimum focusing distance. So when you're shooting on the 24mm, you could get within 2 inches of your subject and be able to have razor sharp focus. So if you want to get super detailed shots really close up, even on the 24mm, well, this lens has a very short minimum focusing distance. Now, in terms of range, I'm now shooting on the 50mm 2.8 in APS-C mode. So if you're curious what that looks like, now I'm shooting at an equivalent to a 75mm on this lens, f2.8. Now this lens is a G lens, so it's not a G Master, it's a step down. However, it's still got all the bells and whistles that you would imagine from a Sony lens, especially all the new ones that have been coming out recently. So it's got 3 different rings on the lens. You have your focusing ring, your zoom ring, and you also have your aperture ring. And this can be clicked or declicked. So you could have it set up where it clicks every 1/3 of a stop, or it's declicked. So it's a smooth change if you do want to change your aperture in the middle of a shot and you don't want to see the step down motion when it is clicked. Now, also on this lens, you have a customizable button on the side, and this is good to be able to set up something that you use all the time and just have it right there on the side of your lens. And the filter thread size on this lens is 67, which for me is something that I really appreciate because I often shoot with the G Master 35 and 50mm 1.4. And so when I take those lenses out with this camera, I only have to bring 1 set of filters and I don't have to bring any step down rings. Just a little thing, but I do like that 67 range for my lenses because also when the lens has a 67mm filter thread, means it is a smaller compact lens, which this one is. Now, one of the most important factors is the image quality. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think about this lens now that you've seen all of this footage being shot on this lens? One of the things that I noticed when I started taking some photos with this is that it's very sharp edge to edge, even when you're shooting at an f2.8. And I'm sure there'll be other creators who are doing scientific tests that look at how sharp the edges are and all of that. But just from using this lens to shoot my videos and take some photos here and there, it's sharp. It's sharp on the edges. I don't notice anything major with it. So I think it's a really solid lens. And in terms of how strong this lens is, it's weather and dust resistant. It's not weather and dust proof. So there is a chance that you could get some moisture and dust in this lens, depending on how intense the setting is that you're filming in. So I'm torn because I love the look of this lens. Sharp, it's fast, looks great, small and compact, it's easy to use. This definitely can be a lens that could just be the only lens that you take out because it has all of the features that you need in a small compact form. But I'm torn because I've been using the Sony 20-70 f4 as kind of my main YouTube lens. And I like that lens because of the versatility of having a 20-70. And then I would often bring out like a 35 1.4 when I really wanted to get super shallow depth of field. So this lens gives you a little bit more separation, a little bit more cinematic feel, but you sacrifice not having as wide of a focal range. So it's kind of a toss-up. Sony lent me this one for the last few weeks to test out, so I have to return it tomorrow. And I'm trying to decide if I'm going to now purchase one. So I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. And next, you should check out this video right here, which goes through a shot that you need to capture when you're out filming. However, can be a tougher one to capture, especially as a solo creator. So I'll see you over there. Right there.